Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Nazi death camps. In 1997, an American researcher named Jennifer Freyd discovered a dangerous pattern in the behavior of abusers. A pattern that repeats in every case of harassment, in every case of power exploitation, in every case where the perpetrator holds more power than the victim. She named it with 3 letters: DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. This pattern, to the letter, is recorded in the Holy Quran over 1400 years before Jennifer Freyd. And I will tell you something even greater. The story we are discussing today contains 12 techniques of psychological and social manipulation. These techniques that modern science did not discover until the 20th century through the work of Freud, Jung, Solomon Asch, and Stanley Milgram. And all of them, every single one, are recorded in a handful of verses from Surah Yusuf. This episode is not a traditional religious lesson. This episode will change the way you understand everything. Every headline you read on social media, every scandal you watch unfold, every time someone flipped the story on you and made you doubt yourself, you will understand the mechanism, you will understand the game, and you will understand the engineering. The Quran called it the best of stories. Today, we understand why. Now, let me begin from a place no one begins from. Let me begin with the words, because the Holy Quran did not choose a single word by accident. Every letter, every morphological form, every syntactic structure carries a message. And I need you to focus with me for the next few minutes, because what I am about to say will make you read the Quran with entirely different eyes after today. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Yusuf, verse number 23,
"And she, in whose house he was, sought to seduce him. She locked the doors and said, 'Come to me.'"
One verse, one line. Some people read this line in 2 seconds and move on. I'm going to stop at every word because every word contains a layer of meaning invisible to the naked eye. The Quran did not say she asked him. It didn't say she offered herself to him. Also, it didn't say she called him. It said rawadathu. What is the difference? Al-Raghib al-Asfahani, one of the greatest linguists in all of the Islamic history, says al-murawada means seeking something through cunning and gentle persuasion. Not a direct request, not an explicit command, a repeated attempt with softness, with subtlety, with guile. What does it mean? It means what happens was not a single moment. It was not a sudden event, a gradual, calculated, premeditated process. And this is precisely what social psychologists named in 1966, just 60 years ago, gradual escalation, or the foot in the door technique. Freedman and Fraser conducted the famous experiment. If you want someone to do you a larger favor, start with a small one, then slightly larger, then larger still. Exactly what the verb rawada describes. And the Quran captured it in a single word, one word. And here in where it becomes truly terrifying. The Quran did not say aghlaqat, she closed, the doors. It said ghallaqat with intensified double consonant. What is the difference? Aghlaqat means one action, one door, one motion. Ghallaqat means repetition, intensification, and emphasis. Ibn Ashur, one of the greatest Quranic commentators of the 20th century, says, the intensive form indicates she locked multiple doors, one after another. Imagine the scene. First door, locked. Second door, locked. Third door, locked. This wasn't random, not an impulsive reaction. This was premeditation. This was spatial engineering. In criminal psychology, the first step in any case of exploitation is isolation. Isolate the victim from any source of help. Isolate them from witnesses. Isolate them from options. Create a sealed environment with no way out. The Quran described this entire operation in a single word, غلقت. After the gradual seduction, after the spatial isolation, came the direct declaration. Hayt lak means, come, I am ready for you. The command is clear. There is no ambiguity. Why her specifically? Why did she not declare her intentions from the beginning? Because she knew that a direct declaration without groundwork would be met with immediate refusal. So she began gradually with seduction. Then she created the isolated environment. Then, only when she felt safe, she made the explicit demand. This is what psychology calls the forced decision moment. A moment engineered so that you must make a decision right now, under pressure, with no time to think, with no one to consult. The same technique is used today in hard selling, which means this offer expires in 2 minutes, and ideological recruitment, which means are you with us or against us? And it means also psychological blackmail, which is if you don't do X, Y will happen. There is another word most people pass over without thought. The Quran said, Niswatun fil Medina, a group of women in the city. It didn't say Nisa, which means women. Niswa means a specific group, a limited number, a closed circle. Not all women of the city, not the street, not the general public. This is a specific social class, the elite, the aristocracy, the wives of the ruling court. And this is not a trivial detail. It tells you the scandal was contained within a specific circle, a circle that has its own rules, its own interests, and its own calculations. The final word I want you to pay attention to, the Quran described what the women said as makr, which means scheming. And when she heard of their scheming, it did not say their criticism, and it did not say their blame. It said their scheming. Why? Because their motive was not moral. If it were moral, the Quran would have said their disapproval. But makr, which is scheming, implies envy, implies gloating, implies social pressure, and implies power game. The women were not defending morality. They were exerting social pressure on the wife of Al-Aziz. And she understood that. And she responded to it. And the way she responded, that is what we will examine right now. Now, let us enter the true depth. This story contains 4 main characters. Each character is a complete psychological universe. I will hand you the lens of modern psychology, and we will read each character through it. And you will discover that Quran preceded modern science, not by decades, but by 14 centuries. The first character, the wife of Al-Aziz, is not a simple character. She's not just an evil woman who seduced a righteous man. No, she's one of the most psychologically complex characters in all human literature. Let me deconstruct her for you, layer by layer. She is not just any woman. She's a wife of the minister, the most powerful man in Egypt after the pharaoh. She occupies a position of authority, a position of wealth, and a position of influence. And there is something dangerous that happens to people in position of power. In 2012, a researcher named Paul Peff at the University of California conducted a stunning series of experiments. He discovered that people in positions of power developed something called entitlement illusion. What does that mean? It means they began to feel that the moral rules that apply to ordinary people do not apply to them. I'm different. I am above the law. I deserve whatever I want. And this is precisely what happened with the wife of Al-Aziz. Her position made her feel she had the right to obtain whatever she desired, even if what she desired was a human being. The Quran mentions no details about the relationship with her husband, but the context speaks. There is a void, an absence, something missing. Freud argued that when repressed desire cannot find a natural channel for expression, it projects onto a substitute object. Joseph, peace be upon him, with his extraordinary beauty, his constant presence in the house, his physical proximity became that substitute object. Not because she loved him in any authentic sense. No, she did not. Because he became a projection screen for everything she was missing. And here I need to stop you at a decisive point. Was what the wife of Al-Aziz felt for Joseph love? Erich Fromm, one of the greatest philosophers of the 20th century, wrote a book called To Have or To Be. And in it, he described the fundamental distinction between two modes of relating to the world. Having mode, I want to possess the person, I want to control them, I want them to be mine. And being mode, I want to be with them, I want to share, I want to grow together. The question is simple. If she truly loved him, would she have threatened him with prison when he refused? Authentic love doesn't transform into a desire to harm the beloved upon rejection. What transforms is possession. What transforms is the will to control. And the Quran expressed this in the following verse.
And if he will not do what I order him, he will surely be imprisoned, and he will be of those debased.
Not just a prison. And he will be of those debased, meaning humiliation. This is not love. This is the will to power. Now, let me show you something extraordinary. The wife of Al-Aziz deployed 5 psychological defense mechanisms that were not formally described in the psychology until the 20th century through the work of Freud and his daughter Anna Freud. And all of them are recorded in the verses. When the matter was discovered, the first thing she said,
What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your family?
In a single moment, she transformed the entire accusation to Joseph. He is the one who intended. He is the one who tried. He is the one who transgressed. This is not mere lying. This is what psychology calls defense projection, attributing your own intentions to other party. Rationalization. In the gathering of the women, she did not apologize. She did not deny. She said,
That is the one about whom you blamed me.
Meaning, you see for yourselves, any woman in the place would have done the same thing. She converted the error from a personal choice into an inevitable response to an external stimulus. It's not that I am at fault. The situation was impossible. Number 3, normalization. And here is a stroke of genius. By involving the women in the experience, by proving they were affected in exactly the same way, she converted the act from an individual deviation into a natural collective response. I'm not the only one. We are all like us. And number 4 of defense mechanism, displaced aggression. When every attempt failed, they turned to threatening, imprisonment. In psychoanalytic terms, this is called displacement of emotional frustration into aggression directed at the source of frustration. I could not obtain him through seduction. I will obtain him by force. And if I cannot, I will destroy him. And finally, the DARVO technique. And here, right here, the story becomes terrifying in its precision. D stands for deny. A stands for attack. RVO stands for reverse, victim, and offender. Jennifer Freyd coined this term in 1997. She found that perpetrators in the vast majority of cases do the same 3 things. They deny they did anything wrong. They attack the victim. And finally, they reverse the roles. The victim becomes the accused and the perpetrator becomes the wronged party. The wife of Al-Aziz executed all three in a single sentence.
What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your family, except that he be imprisoned or a painful punishment?
She denied, not me. She attacked, he is the one who intended evil for your family. And she reversed the roles. Joseph became the accused and she the victim. And she even proposed the punishment. Can you imagine that? The Quran recorded this pattern with an astonishing precision 14 centuries before modern science discovered it. Now, let us turn to the character the Quran presented as a model, Joseph, peace be upon him. And to understand the greatness of his stand, you must first understand the magnitude of the pressure he faced. The pressure of authority, an owned slave in the house of the most powerful man in Egypt. The pressure of temptation, a beautiful woman, luxury, comfort, natural human desire. The pressure of isolation, the doors were locked, no witnesses, no one to help. The pressure of social normalization, the surrounding society, the women were justifying the act. And finally, the pressure of threat, prison, and humiliation. 5 layers of pressure, 5 layers from every direction. And his response was, God forbids. 2 words. In a single moment, he severed every chain of pressure. He did not negotiate. He did not hesitate. He did not calculate consequences. God forbids. In 1981, an American psychologist named Lawrence Kohlberg published his famous theory of moral development. He said that humans pass through 3 stages of moral judgment. Stage 1, pre-conventional. I avoid doing wrong because I fear punishment. Stage 2, conventional. I avoid doing wrong because people will judge me. Stage 3, post-conventional. I avoid doing wrong because it is wrong, regardless of punishment, regardless of what people think, even if the entire society considers it acceptable. Joseph, peace be upon him, was a stage 3. He did not fear punishment because no one was watching. He did not fear people's judgment because the doors were locked. He refused because it was wrong. That is all. But there is a moment in the history, one of the deepest moments in the entire Quran, a moment many people are afraid to discuss. I will not be afraid.
And she certainly desired him, and he would have desired her, had he not seen the proof of his Lord.
The Quran did not deny the existence of natural inclination. It did not say Joseph was made of stone. It did not say he felt nothing. No, it said he would have desired her. And this is one of the greatest moments of honesty in all of the human literature. Imam Al-Razi, one of the greatest minds in Islamic history, paused at this verse at length, and he explored the profound question: what is the difference between natural inclination and conscious moral choice? Automatic response, a natural biological reaction, you do not choose it. A voluntary control, the conscious decision, the choice, the moment you decide, I will not do this. The Quran is saying something revolutionary. You are human. You have inclinations. You have desires. This is natural. But the proof, the highest moral awareness, is what settles the matter. From a Jungian perspective, Joseph confronted the shadow, the dark side of psyche, and transcended it through consciousness, not denial. He did not say, I felt nothing. That would be denial. He said, God forbids. A conscious choice in a moment of genuine human vulnerability. And this is what makes Joseph a human model, not an angelic one, because angels have no choice. Greatness is not in feeling nothing. Greatness is in feeling and choosing. And then, when the pressure reached its peak, when every force converged against him, authority, seduction, threat, and society, He spoke a sentence that stands among the greatest sentences ever uttered in the human history.
My lord, prison is more beloved to me than that to which they invite me.
He chose prison. He chose darkness. He chose chains over surrendering what he believed in. Viktor Frankl, who lived through the Nazi death camps, wrote a sentence that encapsulates everything. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Joseph, an owned slave in a foreign land without family or support, and yet he was the freest man in all of Egypt because he was the only one choosing. Now, character number 3, the women of the city. Let us talk about the women, because what happened in that gathering is one of the most dangerous scenes in the entire Quran, and not only for moral reasons, for psychological and sociological reasons. The scene appears simple on the surface. Joseph entered before them suddenly. They were overcome with awe. They cut their hands without realizing it, and they said,
God preserve us, this is no mortal. This is none other than a noble angel.
What happened here in seconds is what Daniel Goleman, the architect of emotional intelligence theory, called amygdala hijack. What is it? In your brain, there is a structure called the amygdala. It is responsible for immediate emotional response, fear, awe, anger. And there is another structure called the prefrontal cortex. It is responsible for rational thinking, analysis, and judgment. Under normal conditions, the amygdala feels and the prefrontal cortex thinks and decides. But sometimes when the stimulus is overwhelmingly powerful, the amygdala hijacks control from the prefrontal cortex. Meaning, you feel before you think, you act before you decide. And this is exactly what happened. The women saw Joseph suddenly, the amygdala fired. They lost motor control, they cut their hands without feeling it. But more important than that is what happened after the moment of awe. Because here, right here, the social engineering began. In 1951, an American psychologist named Solomon Asch conducted one of the most famous experiments in the history of psychology. He gathered a group of people, showed them lines of a card, asked which line is longer. The answer was as clear as daylight. But what they did not know was that every person in the room, except one, were actors, and they were deliberately giving the wrong answer. The result? 75% of the real participants agreed with the wrong answer. At least one. Why? Not because they could not see the truth, but because the pressure of the group was stronger than the evidence of their own eyes. Now, map this scene onto the gathering of the women. Every one of them exhibited the same reaction. All of them were awestruck. All of them cut their hands. All of them said, "This is no mortal." In that moment, an unspoken collective consensus formed around one thing. The wife of Al-Aziz's reaction was natural. And this is exactly what she wanted. And this brings us to another principle called social proof. Robert Cialdini, one of the most important persuasion scientists of the 20th century, said, "People tend to consider a behavior correct when they see many others doing it." The wife of Al-Aziz did not defend herself with words. She manufactured living proof. She said, "See for yourselves." And the result, no one could blame her anymore because they all did the same thing. And finally, there is a character no one talks about. The character whose silence was more dangerous than everyone else's words. Al-Aziz, the husband.
Joseph, turn away from this. And wife, ask forgiveness for your sin. Indeed, you were of the sinful.
The shirt was torn from the back. The witness testified that Joseph was innocent. The truth was clear. And the response of Al-Aziz, "Joseph, turn away from this. Ask forgiveness for your sin." He acknowledged she was in the wrong, but only between two of them. He took no action. He held no accountable. He did not protect Joseph. Why? Because if he confronted it, if he held her accountable, if the matter became public, his reputation would be destroyed. The minister of Egypt, whose wife tried to seduce his slave, a scandal with no possible upside for anyone. So he chose concealment, but not concealment of truth, concealment of his own image. Irving Goffman, the renowned psychologist, says every person presents themselves to society as though they were an actor on a stage, the objective protecting the public image. Al-Aziz protected his image, but the cost was Joseph's justice. And his silence enabled his wife to continue her pressure. And his silence is what ultimately sent Joseph to prison. And this is what Johan Galton, the Norwegian psychologist, calls structural violence. Violence that is not committed by a direct hand, but operates through the social structure, through silence, through looking away, through choosing not to intervene. Sometimes the most dangerous person is not the one committing the wrong. The most dangerous person is the one who sees the wrong and says nothing. Now, after analyzing the characters one by one, I want you to see the complete picture. Because when you pull all the threads together, you find something staggering. 12 techniques of psychological and social manipulation in a handful of verses. And you will discover that every single one of them repeats around you today, every day, on social media, in the news, in personal relationships even. Let me present them one by one. Technique number 1, exploiting power imbalance. Joseph was a slave. She was the lady of the house. For him, refusal was not simply no. It was risking his life. Michel Foucault, the French philosopher, wrote, "Whoever holds power holds the ability to define truth." And that is precisely what happened. She defined the narrative. She determined who was guilty because she was a more powerful party. Now, a question for you. How many times in your life has someone more powerful than you defined the story and you could not speak? Technique number 2, isolation. She locked the doors, isolate the victim, cut off every source of support, place him in a sealed environment with no exit. Technique number 3, the forced decision moment. Isolation plus direct declaration equals decide now. There is no time to think. Technique number 4, narrative inversion, DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse the roles. What is the recompense of one who intended evil for your family? The perpetrator became the victim and the victim became accused. Technique number 5 is scandal management. And here is where the dark brilliance emerges. When the news spread, she did not attempt denial because denial was no longer viable. Instead, she did something far more sophisticated. She changed the interpretation of the event rather than hiding event itself. Edward Bernays, the founder of the public relation industry, wrote one of the most dangerous sentences of the 20th century. If you cannot hide the event, change its meaning. And that is precisely what the wife of Al-Aziz did. She did not change the facts. She changed the frame. Technique number 6, engineered social theater. And here I need to stop you at the most dangerous moment in the entire story, the gathering of the women. Picture the scene. She prepared the venue. She arranged the food. She provided the knives. Everything calculated. The women are seated, comfortable, holding knives, cutting fruit, and suddenly, without warning, Joseph walks in. This was not a random scene. It was a designed social experiment. Like what psychologists do in the laboratories, place individuals in controlled conditions and observe their reactions. But the difference is that the wife of Al-Aziz was not conducting academic research. She was building a case. This resembles what behavioral science calls choice architecture or nudge theory. Design the environment in a way that steers people toward a specific behavior without them realizing they are being steered. She did not tell them, approve of my behavior. She made them live the same experience. And then she delivered the single sentence. That is the one about whom you blamed me. This is what you blamed me for. You saw for yourselves. Game over. Technique number 7, cognitive shocks as a persuasion tool. Why did she bring Joseph in suddenly? Why not tell them in advance? Someone will come in. Why? Because the surprise was the point. Cognitive shock achieves something critical. It temporarily disables critical thinking and makes the person maximally susceptible to influence. The same technique is used today in shock advertising, clickbait headlines, breaking news alerts. The objective is always the same. Shock first, then direct while they are in the state of shock. Technique number 8 and 9, collective normalization and guilt transfer. When all of them exhibited the same reaction, it became logically impossible for any one of them to be guilty. If we are all guilty, then no one is guilty. This is what Albert Bandura called moral disengagement, a set of cognitive mechanisms that allow a person to commit immoral acts without experiencing guilt. How? Diffusion of responsibility. We all did it. How? Blaming the victim. Joseph is to blame with his beauty. How? Advantageous comparison. What I did is milder than what could have happened. How? Distortion of consequences. What is a big deal? Really? Every day, every single day, you hear these sentences on social media, in society, in relationships. Everyone does it. Diffusion of responsibility. They provoked me, blaming the victim. What is the problem? Others have done worse. Advantageous comparison. Techniques number 10, 11, and 12. Technique 10, narrative reframing, which is change the interpretive frames of events without changing the events themselves. Technique number 11, from seduction to coercion. When the carrot failed, she brought the stick. From come to me to he will surely be imprisoned. From reward power to coercive power. Technique number 12, transforming desire into a battle of wills. The issue was not longer about desire. It became about control, about dominance, about who is more powerful. 12 techniques in a handful of verses. Before Freud, before Jung, before Ash, before Milgram, before Saladini, before Bandura, before Goffman, before 14 centuries. And the Quran called it the best of stories. Do you now understand why? If the patterns we identified were exclusive to a single story, we could dismiss them as coincidence. But the Quran tells you, no, this is not coincidence. This is structure. This is part of the human constitution that repeats across history. And to prove it, let me show you 4 other Quranic stories containing the same mirror one. The people of Lut, normalization at its worst. In the story of the Prophet Lut, peace be upon him, the deviant behavior was not individual, it was collective, and the one who objected became the outsider.
Expel them from your city. Indeed, they are people who keep themselves pure.
Listen to the verse carefully. Expel them because they kept themselves pure. Purity becomes an accusation. Deviation became the standard. This is precisely what the spiral of silence theory describes. When a particular behavior dominates the public space, dissent becomes fraught with isolation and expulsion. So, those who disagree fall silent, and those who fall silent disappear, and those who disappear appear not to exist. So the impression forms that everyone agrees, and the reality is that everyone is afraid to speak. Mirror number 2, the trial of the golden calf, manufacturing the symbol. The Samiri, when Moses was absent, what did he do? He did not tell the people, disbelieve in God. That would not work. No, he manufactured an attractive symbol, a golden calf. He exploited the leadership vacuum, Moses' absence, and he offered an alternative narrative.
This is your God and the God of Moses, but he forgot.
Same structure. exploiting vacuum, just as the wife of Al-Aziz exploited the absence of oversight, manufacturing a dazzling visual stimulus, just as Joseph's appearance overwhelmed the women, offering an alternative interpretation, just as the wife of Al-Aziz reframed the story. Mirror 3, Qarun, blinded by spectacle.
So he came out before his people in his adornment. Those who desired the worldly life said, "Oh, would that we had like what was given to Qarun."
Qarun did not convince people with argument. He convinced them with spectacle. He appeared before them in full glory and splendor, and they forgot everything and said, "If only we had what Qarun has." This is called attention hijacking. And it is the same thing that happens when you open Instagram and see people's perfect life and forget everything and say, "If only." Mirror number 4, the counterpoint, Solomon and the Queen of Saba. But to be fair, the Quran did not present these techniques only in a negative context. There is a positive example. Solomon, peace be upon him, with the Queen of Saba, he used similar techniques. He altered her throne but built the glass floor. He designed an experience but with an entirely different purpose: to reveal truth, not to conceal it, to liberate the mind, not to deceive it. And this tells us something profoundly important. Psychological tools in themselves are neutral. Moral value is determined by the purpose. The same knife that cuts fruit can kill a human being. The same technique that liberates a mind can enslave nations. Moving from the women's gathering to your screen. Right now in particular, I need your full focus, because everything we have discussed since the beginning, all of this analysis is not history. This is your present. This is what happens to you every single day while you hold your phone. Listen to this equation: shock, engagement, spread, views, ads, profit. This is called the attention economy. Herbert Simon, Nobel Prize laureate, said in 1971, "A wealth of information creates a poverty of attention." When information is abundant, attention becomes scarce, and what is scarce becomes valuable, and what is valuable gets sold. Digital platforms, Facebook, X, TikTok, YouTube, do not sell you content. They sell your attention to advertisers. You are not the consumer, you are the product. And what attracts attention most powerfully? Scandals. Why? Because scandals trigger powerful emotions: curiosity, anger, schadenfreude, and outrage. And powerful emotions equals greater engagement, equals wider spread, equals high profit. And the algorithms, the programs that determine what appears on your screen, knows this. Not necessarily because they are deliberately programmed for it, but as a natural consequence of their design. Content that generates more engagement gets shown to more people, and shocking, controversial content always generates more engagement. Now, I will make a comparison between what we explained previously and between social media today. If we talk about the creating of shocking events, the woman's gathering in Joseph's story, revealing Joseph suddenly. For social media today, publishing a provocative statement or shocking video. As for expanding the audience, for women's gathering in Joseph's story, inviting the city's women. For social media today, algorithms delivering content to millions. For reframing in women's gathering in Joseph's story, that is the one about whom you blame me. In social media today, reinterpreting events to serve the desired narrative. For normalization in women's gathering, the women's reaction as social proof. For social media today, repeated exposure until behavior seems normal. Reversing roles in the woman's gathering, accusing Joseph. In social media today, attacking critics instead of addressing the act. Capitalizing on controversy in the women's gathering, using the reaction to exonerate herself. In social media today, fueling controversy to increase reach and profit. For social proof in the women's gathering of Joseph, Fraser's story, threatening imprisonment in social media today, digital mob campaigns, and mass online shaming. Same steps, same sequence, same outcome. The only difference? Speed and scale. The women's gathering had 10 women, maybe 20. A single algorithm delivers content to 20 million in an hour. And there is something called scandal fatigue. When you are exposed to scandals every day, something dangerous happens. You become less sensitive. What shocked you a year ago, you scroll past today. What shocks you today will be ordinary in a year. And the threshold of shock keeps rising, rising, and rising, until you find yourself accepting things you would never have accepted before. And this is the precise definition of normalization. No one comes to you and says, accept what is wrong. No, they expose you to it every day until you stop seeing it as wrong. Neil Postman, an American thinker, wrote in 1985 a prophetic sentence. People will not be stripped of their freedom by force. They will surrender it voluntarily in exchange for entertainment. 1985. Before the internet, before social media, before algorithms, imagine if he could see what is happening today. And this is the vicious circle. Platforms want engagement, so they promote provocative content. Content creators want fame, so they produce shocking material. The audience wants stimulation, so they engage. Advertisers want reach, so they pay. And the cycle repeats and repeats and repeats. Every party is incentivized to continue, and the result, a continuous rise in the threshold of shock. Continuous normalization of what was once unacceptable, a continuous erosion of values. Without anyone deciding it, without anyone planning it. It is natural outcome of the system. And the most dangerous element of all is that there are people who understand this game and are using it. There are content creators and course instructors who follow the exact same sequence. Number one, manufacture a crisis. You are repressed. Society is oppressing you. Your feelings are suppressed. Number two, normalize the shocking behavior. Present behaviors that contradict prevailing values as liberation. Number three, invert concepts. Chastity equals repression. Modesty equals weakness. And commitment equals backwardness. Number four, sell the solution. Want to be free? Subscribe to my course. This is called pain point marketing. Manufacture the problem, then sell the solution. We have reached the end, and I want to say something from the heart. This story is not a story about sex and seduction. It is not about righteous man and an evil woman. No. This story is about you, about every moment in your life when you face pressure to surrender what you believe in, about every time someone more powerful than you tried to impose their version of the story on you, about every time the crowd pressured you to do something your heart told you was wrong, about every time scandal, threat, and blackmail were deployed against you to make you comply or submit. The Quran tells you 5 things through this story. 1. Understand the techniques. The Quran did not conceal them. It displayed them. It dissected them. It analyzed them. Why? Because understanding is the first step in resistance. You cannot resist what you do not understand. 2. The crowd is not always right. Every woman in the gathering was affected. Everyone was awestruck. Everyone was tacitly agreed. And every one of them was wrong. Do not measure truth by the number of its supporters. Number 3, power is not the same as right. Just because someone is more powerful than you doesn't make them more correct. Just because someone is wealthier doesn't make them wiser. Power grants capability. It does not grant moral authority. Number 4, tools are neutral. Morality resides in intent. The same techniques can be used in liberation or for enslavement. for truth or for falsehood. The question is not, do you know the technique? It is what are you using it for? 5, and this is the most important, there is a moment in everyone's person's life, a moment when you are completely alone, no one watching, no camera, no audience. The doors are locked, the pressure is immense, and the choice stands before them. Do what is easy or do what is right. In that moment, you decide who you are. Not before it, not after it, in it. Joseph, peace be upon him, a slave in a foreign land with that family support. The doors were locked, authority was against him, society was against him, even human nature was against him. And yet,
My Lord, prison is more beloved to me than that to which they invite me.
he chose prison over compromise. He chose darkness over betrayal. He chose inner freedom over outer comfort. And that is why the Quran called it the best of stories. Not because it is the most beautiful tale, but because it is the deepest mirror. A mirror that shows you everything within you. Every weakness, every strength, every fear, every courage, and asks you a single question. Who are you when no one is watching? And Viktor Frankl, who lived through the inferno of the Nazi death camps, said a sentence that is a perfect conclusion. Everything can be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. Joseph knew this thousands of years before Frankl, and the Quran recorded it so that you would know it too.
There was certainly in their stories a lesson for those of understanding. Never was it a fabricated discourse, but a confirmation of what was before it, and a detailed explanation of all things, and guidance and mercy for a people who believe.
If this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs it, not for the views, for awareness. Because the most powerful weapon against manipulation is understanding. Peace be upon you. I'm Dr. Muhammad Farid. See you next time, inshallah. Bye.